Hola, memes. Dangerous Moonwalker here. And as we observe a day of remembrance of Joseph Jackson, Michael Jackson's father, we will also remember that he was a great person, a great leader, and a great businessman. And on June 22nd, 2018, TMZ was the very first to report that Joseph Jackson was hospitalized and in the final stages of terminal pancreatic cancer. On June 25th, he asked to be taken off of life support, knowing that this was a fight he simply cannot win and wanted to enjoy the last few days that he had. He passed away in hospice in Las Vegas on June 27th, 2018, 2 days after the 9th anniversary of Michael's death, and less than a month before his 90th birthday. He was surrounded by Katherine Jackson, his not ugh, the rest of his surviving children, including Giovanni, Jermaine, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, Janet, Rebe, and Latoya, and also Michael's daughter, Paris. In Joseph's early life, I'm actually reading a biography that I wrote down about him for today, just so y'all know. Joseph Walter Jackson was born to the late Samuel Joseph Jackson, who was born on April 22nd, 1893, and died on November 3rd, 1993. He was 100 years old. He died in 1993 due to the allegations and the tabloids about Michael Jackson at the time. It was so bad, even though he was living at a nursing home and he was living fine, that his heart couldn't take it, and he died. He was a school teacher, his father, and his mother, who was what's what I'm looking for? She was a stay-at-home mom, a sharecropper, Crystal Lee King. She was born in May of 1907 and died on November 2nd, 1992. Joseph Jackson was born on July 26, 1928. However, according to the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame, in Katherine Jackson's book, My Family, the Jacksons, his year of birth was actually 1929. So it's variable. He was the eldest of 5 children and was from an African and Native American ancestry. Jackson recalled from his early childhood that his father was domineering and strict. He described himself in his memoir, The Jacksons, as a lonely child and only had a few friends. His parents separated when he was 12. His mother, 2 brothers, and sisters moved to East Chicago, Indiana, in a suburban outside Chicago, in northwest Indiana, while his father moved to Oakland, California. When he was 18, his father remarried, and he moved to East Chicago to live with his mother and his 2 brothers and 1 sister. He soon got a job in East Chicago at Inland Steel Company. He did not finish high school. Now, here's one fact that we all need to get straight. Hold on, I need to fix my pillow real quick. Now, here's one fact that we all need to get straight. Most people back then did not really finish high school. Well, nowadays you actually have to have a college degree to be able to get jobs. You honestly can't even work at McDonald's without having without having a high school diploma. But anyway, back in the day, you didn't have to finish high school and you can get a job in a factory. Nowadays, you can't do that. But anyway, where was I? He soon... While in East Chicago, he began to pursue his dreams of becoming a boxer and found success with the Golden Gloves program. He was preparing for a professional boxing career when he met 17-year-old Catherine Scruzet. whose original name was Nee Screws. Just Screws. Nee is the original name. They changed it. Nee means that they changed it, if y'all understand. But who also lived in East Chicago and attended Washington High School. Joe was married to another woman, but divorced less than a year later, before he started dating Catherine. Joseph and Catherine were married on November 5th, 1949, and in January of 1950, they purchased the now legendary small two-bedroom home on 2300 Jackson Street near East Chicago in Gary, Indiana. Their first child, Maureen Reliette, more noticeably known as Rebe Jackson, was born 4 months later on May 29, 1950 in the Jackson house. Still employed at an Inland Steel, Joseph left his hopes of becoming a professional boxer in order to support his family and began working there as a full-time crane operator. He then took a second part-time job at American Foundries in East Chicago. Meanwhile, his wife Catherine tended to their growing family. During the late 50s, she began working part-time at a Sears in the financial district of Gary. Joseph and Catherine went on to have 10 children. As their son Brandon Jackson died after he was born, he was the twin of Marlon Jackson. During the early 1950s, Jackson briefly performed with his own blues band called the Falcons playing guitars. Despite their efforts, the Falcons did not get a record recording deal and subsequently broke up after one of their members, Thornton Pookie Hudson, founded his own band in 1952. That band would go on to become a successful doo-wop group called the Spaniels. The conceivement of the Jackson Five. Joe Jackson worked with his son's musical group in the early 1960s, beginning with his three eldest sons, Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine. Younger sons, Marlon and the now legendary Michael, eventually joined backing the band. Joseph began enforcing long and intense rehearsals for his sons. At first, the group went under the name the Jackson Brothers. Following the inclusion of Michael and Marlon in the group, Michael had increased his vocal presence within the group, and the name was changed to the Jackson Five. Within a couple of years, performing in talent show contests and high school functions, Joseph booked them more and more respectable and valuable venues until they landed a spot at the renowned Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. On November 21st, 1967, the Jackson Five were assigned to their first professional contract with Keith Gordon as the owner and first president of Steeltown Records in Gary, Indiana. The group's first single was Big Boy, with Michael as the lead singer. It released on January 31st, 1968. Big Boy became a local hit, and with the brothers, they became local celebrities after it was played on the radios in the Chicago, Gary area. Within the year, the Jackson helped land his sons an audition for Motown in Detroit. In 1969, in the month of March, they were signed to Motown. Furthermore, in the early 70s, Jackson moved his family to California and supervised every recording session that they had made for Motown. They began to receive nationwide effect, with their first single from Motown being I Want You Back, a #1 hit released on October 7th, 1969, followed by their first album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5, in December of 1969. Afterwards, their first 4 singles, which became #1 hits instantly, I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There, sold 10 million copies in 10 months, setting a world record for its sales. It became clear to Jackson that his dream to make his sons the first African American teenagers to become become internationally known recording stars had become true. In 1973, wanting to reassert his control, Jackson and his family, including his youngest son, Randy, his daughters, all three of his daughters, Latoya, Ruby, and Janet, performed at casinos and resorts in Las Vegas, inspired by the family fellow act, the Osmonds. Joseph had actually formed his own record label called the Ivory Tower, an international record sale that signed under his management, which they toured internationally. The Jackson 5 as the opening acts in 1974. The Jackson 5, unfortunately with the exception of Jermaine, left Motown, signed a lucrative deal with Epic Records. Michael had brokered a deal where they could eventually perform their own songs, leading Motown to retain the Jackson 5 name, and they had to rename themselves simply the Jacksons in 1976. In 1978, Joseph's youngest son, Randy, released his solo single, "How Can I Be Sure," on Joseph's label. In 1982, Janet established her career at 16 as a recording artist while managing her. He financed the recording of her daughter's first demo, and then arranged a recording contract with A&M Records, began recording her debut album, overseen by him. Marital troubles. Joseph was alleged to have a lasting extramarital affair. Catherine filed for divorce on March 9, 1973, with a Los Angeles County clerk, but she decided to drop the divorce papers. Later the following year, Joseph fathered a child with Cheryl Terrell. Their daughter, Giovanni Jackson, was born on August 30th, 1974. This led Joseph and Cheryl to a 23-year-long affair, raising Giovanni. Catherine attempted once again to divorce her husband in 1982, but was persuaded to drop the action. Joseph then moved away to Las Vegas, with Catherine remaining at the family home in Havenhurst, which is called Havenhurst in Encino. Despite living separately, Joseph and Catherine legally remained married until his death in 2018. Catherine denied any rumors that her and Joseph were estranged. They had 11 children. Joseph had 11 children, and 10 with his wife Catherine. The following are named from oldest to youngest: Maureen Rilliette Reby Jackson, born May 29, 1950. Sigmund Esco Jackie Jackson, born May 4th, 1951. Toriano Ardell Tito Jackson, born October 15th, 1953. Jermaine LaJohn Jackson, born December 11th, 1954. Latoya Yvonne Jackson, born May 29th, 1956. Marlon David Jackson, born March 12th, 1957. Brandon Jackson, who was born and died on March 12th, 1957, within 24 hours of being born due to a respiratory issue. The now legendary Michael Joseph Jackson, born on August 29th, 1958, born at 7:33 p.m. and died on June 25th, 2009 at 2:26 p.m. Stephen Randall Randy Jackson, born on October 29th, 1961. Janet Damita Joe, born on May 16th, 1966. The estranged love child from an affair, Giovanni Jackson, born on August 30th, 1974. She is the youngest of the children. Public image. In the late 1980s, Joseph's image as a father had become tarnished with the media reported stories told by his children that he was abusive towards them. When he managed his family, he allegedly ordered them to call him Joseph, which contributed to several siblings becoming estranged from him. Michael, especially, who claimed from a young age who was physically, emotionally, and mentally abused by his father, enduring incessant rehearsals, whippings, and name callings, and admitting that his father's strict discipline played a large role in his success. Michael first openly spoke about his childhood in the now infamous 1993 interview at Neverland Ranch, where Oprah talks to Michael, saying that he would used to call me Big Nose and would used to throw me up against the wall as hard as he could, and he would used to beat us. Joseph said that if you don't do it the right way, he would tear you up. He would really get you. Joseph admitted to whipping his children with switches and belts as punishments, but he said not so at random, and claimed never used hard objects as he felt was as the word beating. Despite the abuse allegations, Michael honored his father with the annual Joseph Jackson Day at Neverland Ranch and ultimately forgave him in 2003, noting that Joseph's deep South Side upbringing during the Great Depression and Jim Crow years and working class adulthood hardened him emotionally to push his children to succeed as entertainers. Both Joe and Catherine denied characterization of abuse. Catherine said, while the whippings is viewed as abuse by current generations, some methods were normal ways to discipline children for misbehavior in those days. Other siblings, Tito, Jackie, Jermaine, and Marlon, have denied that his father was abusive. In several movies where he was reenacted, Joseph Jackson was played by Lawrence Hilton Jacobs in the miniseries The Jacksons: An American Dream in 1993, and once again by Fred, and he was portrayed by Frederick Tucker in the 2004 VH1 biopic Man in the Mirror: The Michael Jackson Story. Final years. Joseph Jackson was inducted into the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame. In 2014, he accepted the award on behalf of his son Michael when he was inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame with a Lifetime Achievement Award. The following year, he was awarded the Rhythm and Blues Humanitarian Award. In June 2015, Jackson appeared at the BET Awards in 2015 with his daughter Janet as she accepted the Ultimate Icon Award. On July 27, 2015, Joseph was rushed to the hospital, suffering a stroke and arrhythmia and a heart arrhythmia while celebrating his 87th birthday in Brazil. He was not stable enough to fly out the country for further treatment until 2 weeks later. Upon arriving in Los Angeles on August 11th, he was treated at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center to correct his blurred vision following a stroke. In January 2017, Jackson's brother Lawrence had died. Joseph Jackson died from pancreatic cancer on June 27th, 2018, less than a month after his 90th birthday. Joseph Jackson was a hard-working fellow who wanted the best for his children like any other person would want. And despite what he did do or what he didn't do, Jermaine, Tito, Marlon, Randy, and all the rest of the children, at the end of the day, they still call him dad, or in their cases, they call him Joseph. Joseph was a good man, and in ways, I think that he deserved more when it came to accolades. May Joseph Jackson rest in peace, and I hope that Katherine Jackson is doing okay, because now we're just waiting to see if she'll live or she'll die. And quite frankly, I want her to live. With that out of the way, this is Dangerous Moonwalker signing off with love, LOVE. God bless. Thank you.